Hello, everyone. Well, it happened. The Quad has gathered. The Quad has gathered, and the talks were somewhat secret. We don't know what was discussed during the Quad. We weren't privy. We don't know what the Quad said, what comments the Quad made. All we know is the statements made by the leaders after they came out of the meeting. When the leaders came out of the meeting with the Quad, that's QUAD, Quad, and it stands for Quadrilateral, which is the four countries. Um, Four countries are in the Quad. It's Japan, Australia, India, and the US. That's the Quad. And it's talking about the Indo-Pacific region. Notice China isn't at the table. China wasn't invited because China's been acting like a bully in the Pacific region and in the Indian Ocean. They've claimed the South China Sea for themselves, and they are bullies. They are big time bullies. They can hardly wait to take over Taiwan when they get a chance. So China wasn't at the table. Now, the other day, Kamala Harris met with Narendra Modi, and she was not kind to him. Um, According to almost every single news outlet, this is what it sounded like to them. She was giving him a very veiled scolding in regards to democracy. She was basically insinuating that India isn't a true democracy because of their human rights stances, and that they need to be more democratic and uphold the principles of democracy. So she made a statement not addressing India directly, not saying you're not democratic, but just a veiled inference to upholding democracy in the Indo-Pacific region. Now, Kamala Harris is to the last person on earth to care about democracy. Okay, she is not concerned about democracy at all, for reals. She's never cared about democracy. She's not democratic herself. She's a communist. But communism is opposed to democracy by principle. She's a friend of China. She is an enemy of India, where her mother comes from. And she's never been on India's side or on Modi's side. Now, Modi has done some bad things. Let's face it, Modi has done some bad things. There was, while he was the minister of certain province in India, there was a massacre of 1,000 Muslims. Over 1,000 Muslims were massacred in this one province that he was in charge of. Now, we can't blame that on him. We can't say, oh, well, he ordered them to be massacred. It was all his doing. You can't say that. But it happened on his watch, and a lot of people blame him for it. So, apparently, Kamala Harris blames him for it and is implying that he's not democratic. Another thing, they have a law that they passed in India. And by the way, the Prime Minister doesn't make the laws for the country. He's just in charge and enforces the laws, just like a president does. So he doesn't make laws. There's a law in India that, after he came to power, that says that that you're not allowed to proselytize your religion at all. And if you do, you can do some jail time. So, yeah, Modi's got some issues. He laid a gold brick on the foundations of a mosque that had been demolished by the locals, and the gold brick was the first brick being laid for the new Hindu temple they were going to build on the site of this old mosque that they had destroyed. So not very friendly to Muslims, not very friendly to alternate religions, basically a Hindu hardliner, and um, very, whether you think that that's good or bad, right or wrong, it's up to you. But it isn't very free. It isn't very free, and it's not a democratic principle. Freedom of religion is the cornerstone of any democracy. Because without freedom of religion, you don't have freedom of thought. You don't have freedom of belief, and you could argue, well, he's trying to protect people's native faith by not allowing proselytizing. What they're really trying to do is protect the Hindu religion from disappearing, and the Hindu religion is doing quite well in India. So they don't really have to worry about it disappearing, but they're apparently they're worried about even one person being converted away from Hinduism. They're afraid of even one person or just even a couple people being converted. So they don't allow proselytizing at all. Not in print, not in ads, not books that proselytize, not probably the Bible's the most banned book in India, and not talking to people about it. You can't talk about it. You can't talk about it to anyone, because if you do, you do jail time. So that's India. Um, not the freest of all the democracies, but who is Kamala Harris to give a lecture to Modi? Honestly, think about it. Think about it. Who is Kamala Harris to give a lecture to Modi about democracy? She doesn't care about democracy. She's just being Modi's enemy because she wants to destabilize India so that China can take over, her friends in China. She doesn't love her native homeland of India. She doesn't love them at all. She doesn't love them. She doesn't care. She's not on Modi's side. She's not Modi's friend. She's being an enemy of Modi's. She's using democracy to get back at him. But then later on, she'll go back on her word of supporting democracy and supporting freedoms and become a hardline communist later on. That's the way these individuals work. They will do or say anything to get to home. And home is where everybody in the whole world is a communist. To get to home, they would do anything, they would say anything um, to reach the final. And even when everyone's a communist, they're still not going to be satisfied. They're going to have to become more and more and more strict about what people think and what people feel. And there's always going to be a crisis going on. There'll always be a news item trumpeting that not everyone is a communist yet and that we have to win the war against freedom of thought. We have to win the war against freedom of thought. So she's just using democracy in this early stage to try to destabilize India and discredit Modi. And then later, she'll go back on her word and become a communist. So not a friendly person, Kamala Harris. You don't believe me? Well, why wasn't she? Why is it that Modi complimented her and had nothing but good things to say about her just because her race happens to be half Indian? Complimented her, praised her, and she had not one good thing to say in return. Now, another way this could be interpreted, because she used very veiled language, which makes me suspicious of her because she's not being entirely honest. Almost everyone perceived it as an insult to Modi, suggesting that he isn't a true democracy in India. But the thing is that it could also, what she said, be interpreted as just seeing after America's interests, just looking into America's interests in India, and being on the side of looking out for America's interests in India. And they discussed collaborations with the space program, collaborations with a couple of other things, industry and so on. But it looked like she was looking for what America could get from India. Like she's being a team player, right? She's being a team player, and her team is USA right now for the present moment. Her team is Team USA. She's just looking out for America's interests in India, what she can get from India without giving anything in return, without promising anything, without making any promises, without doing anything good for India. She just wants to take. She doesn't want to give to India. So, from that perspective, you could say, oh, well, Team USA, yay, wave a little flag and be real glad that Kamala Harris is looking out for our best interests. But what kind of a message does it send to the world if America is not giving generously to India in return? Because let's face it, they're a poor country. They need our help. They need our help desperately, and COVID has ruined their economy. They need help. They need help desperately in India. A couple of their biggest billionaires failed and became impoverished and destitute because because of the stocks falling in India. The Indian stock market crashed during COVID, and they lost their fortunes. So, because they lost their fortunes, India is poor and impoverished now, in need, financial need. And Kamala Harris could have made them some promises, but instead, no, she was just interested in what America could get from India, because right now she's on Team America. But then when she switches sides and goes to Team China, then she'll be abusing her own homeland. Just what kind of character is that, to abuse her own homeland? Who is she to give Modi lectures on democracy? She's the most undemocratic person ever. I don't buy it that she's a Democrat or a democracy-loving person. She isn't a true democracy-loving person. She believes in communism, and she would stop at nothing to see communism take over. I don't buy it. I'm not buying that she's a democracy-loving person. Not buying her lectures to Modi, and when it's the pot calling the kettle black. I know that you don't like that expression because it's got black in it, but she is accusing Modi of being undemocratic when she's undemocratic. So I don't think she should be giving Modi lectures. I think her biggest asset right now is secrecy. Her biggest asset is secrecy, and her biggest asset is that she's an unknown. Nobody knows what Kamala Harris stands for right now. Nobody can prove 100% genuine, certain what Kamala Harris cares about, what she believes in, what she stands for. We don't know what she believes in or what she stands for, and that's her asset. Because she can hide. She can hide until the last second when she plays a double agent and betrays her own country. Whatever team she's on is the current team that she's on, and she's a team player so that she can hide her true intentions. That's terrible. I think it's a terrible way to live and a terrible thing to be. Biden is different. Biden met with Modi, and Biden made Modi all sorts of promises. Biden told Modi, he talked defense with Modi. He talked defense with Modi, and Biden promised him some military helicopters and all sorts of advanced military equipment, surveillance equipment, and all sorts of neat technology from America that is going to be beneficial to Modi in a possible war with China. So Biden's being a good guy. Biden is playing good cop while Kamala Harris plays bad cop. And while Biden is playing good cop, he's making Modi all sorts of promises of things that he'll give. But once Biden is dead and gone, Kamala Harris will be around, and she that giveth will taketh away also. So, not a nice situation for India. It doesn't look good for India right now. Um, if we had maybe you know Republican in office. I'm not saying Trump because Trump has indemnified himself, but a Republican in office, maybe Jeb Bush or well, Jeb Bush is really the only contender that has a chance against Trump. But we had a Republican in office. It is possible that there would be a better outcome for India, that India would not India would be defended, and India would be protected by the U.S. Because India is the most vulnerable. They have a huge population. But they're vulnerable to attack from China. They share a border with China. China's already invaded India, and they would like to attack India. We already know that China has invaded India, and that they would do anything to start a full-blown war with India so that they can claim India for themselves, double their land overnight, and then, well, not double their land. India's pretty small, but then grab all those people for themselves and impress them into service to China. Have a bunch of slaves or serfs. Then eventually do some ethnic cleansing. Have all that land for China. So, we don't trust China. We don't trust China. We don't trust their intentions toward India. And I certainly don't trust Kamala Harris's intentions toward India. Everybody loves her in India. Everybody loves her. Wow, she's an Indian. But no, she doesn't love India at all. She doesn't care about her home country of India. She's, all she can do is give Modi lectures about democracy and see what she can get from India, but she isn't making any promises like Biden is making. So Biden is kind of a good guy, and Biden has some relatives, relatives in India that came during probably the Boer War, came to India, and wasn't that other war? I think the Boer War was in Africa. I can't remember the name of the war. There was a war that India was a military base for the British Empire, and some Bidens that were Irish came over for that to engage in that war, and there's actually people with the surname of Biden living in India to this day. They're Bidens. So that's kind of interesting that they have some real Bidens in India. They're his relatives. They're Joe Biden's relatives living in India. And Modi brought him a family tree from India, showing that indeed it was his own relative that lived in India, that had married an Indian woman and had offspring, and they're Indians now. They're the Indian branch of the Biden family. So Biden's got some connections to India too. And Biden made more promises. Let's see if any of his promises are kept. If Kamala Harris will keep Biden's promises once Biden is gone, or whether she's going to betray, like a double agent would do. She's going to betray America and India, especially India. Um, I still don't trust her. Still don't trust her. She hasn't come clean. She hasn't come clean, and she's still making veiled references and veiled threats and veiled statements. Just show not that she cares about democracy, but that she's sort of an enemy. She makes enemies wherever she goes. She makes enemies with with Modi and with the leadership of India. That she wants enemies there. She doesn't want to make friends. She wants to fight. And she's not fighting on the side of democracy. She's just using democracy, which is terrible. Why would anybody want to use democracy? So that's it. The Quad. Quad met to discuss India in private, or China in private, and discuss what could be done. What could be done about China, and what could be done about. They didn't tell anyone. That was secret. That was a secret part of the talks. They didn't discuss openly what their plans are. That it's going to be top secret, but you can guess what it is. More technology, more military, more defense, and more business deals. So that's pretty obvious that that's what the Quad was there to discuss, and that was their main topic of discussion. That was what they came to resolve. And China called them a bunch of losers and called them names. The Global Times of China, Times of China called them losers. Said that they would become cannon fodder if they took on China. This was the Global Times of China. The Global Times of China is the mouthpiece of the Communist Party, and they spouted a bunch of rhetoric and called them mean names. Not a smart move if they want to hide what they're doing. It's obvious that they're trying to get their people rallied against the Quad, and to call these world leaders that were selected democratically by their people, all of these names, and all of these insults. It's not good. It's not good for China to be doing this. China, they've lost their genuineness, if they ever had any genuineness. They've lost it. They've totally lost it, and it's not looking good for the world. It doesn't look good for the world, because nuclear annihilation is mutually assured destruction, or MAD for short, mutually assured destruction. I don't know what to tell you, folks. The Quad is needed. More people need to join the Quad, or as allies of the Quad. So, like the UK, France, and maybe Germany, and a few other European countries join with the Quad, which is Australia, Japan, India, and the US. They can join together, form a coalition. Maybe China would think twice and begin to back down. And I'll see you next time.